Welcome to Crypto 101, a first principles jargon-free course on blockchain and its impact on financial services. In the previous lesson, we began learning about ownership tokens. In this lesson, we will learn about owning digital assets via non-fungible tokens. Then, we will discuss ownership of physical assets. So far in this course, we have only dealt with fungible tokens. Fungible tokens are tokens where all units are alike. A physical world example is gold ingots. Native cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether are fungible tokens. So are ERC20 tokens. Non-fungible tokens or NFTs are tokens where each unit is distinct. A real-world example is gold jewelry. Next, we will see a real-life example of an NFT. I am now on the website of OpenSea, which is a marketplace for buying NFTs. I am going to pull up the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs. The Bored Ape Yacht Club is a collection of 10,000 cartoon representations of an ape, each of which is somewhat different. People can use these as profile pictures. I will click on one of these images. We can see the image as well as metadata around it. We are informed that 12% of the 10,000 cartoons share a green background, whereas only 3% have an army hat. The reason these attributes are being listed here is that it signifies to the potential buyer the relative rarity of this specific cartoon. When I click on the Details tab, I can see the Ethereum smart contract address which contains the crypto token that signifies ownership of this image. Next, I will click on this link. This brings me to the Etherscan block explorer. I am now in the smart contract address which houses the 10,000 tokens, each of which uniquely maps to one of the 10,000 cartoon images of bored apes. On the smart contract, I can see multiple transactions. I want to pull up the transaction that created the smart contract. I give it a moment for the transactions to pull up. Next, I go to the last page. We can see the original transaction that created this smart contract. The Bored Ape Yacht Club is the public tag of the Ethereum address from which this smart contract was created. We can also see many Mint Ape transactions. Next, we will dig into one of these Mint Ape transactions. I will now open the Mint Coin transaction. We can see that this transaction generates 2 of the 10,000 tokens within the Bored Ape Yacht Club smart contract. These are token ID 37 and 38. If we scroll down, we can see that the tokens were transferred from a null address into this smart contract address. The fact that the source address is null means these were created for the first time. I can also see these images that correspond to these 2 token IDs. Next, we will click on this image. Let us reflect on the metadata associated with this image. The token this identifies this image is a combination of 2 attributes. The first attribute is the smart contract address. The second attribute is the token ID. The combination of the 2 represents a unique identifier of a token. The token is currently owned by the holder of the private key to this Ethereum address. ERC721 is similar to the ERC20 standard we reviewed in a previous lesson. ERC721 applies to non-fungible tokens while ERC20 applies to fungible tokens. This image can be bought at these marketplaces. If someone buys the image, the Ethereum address of the token owner changes within the smart contract. We will revisit marketplaces shortly. Now, we can distinguish between the 2 dimensions of an NFT. The first is the identifier. This consists of the smart contract address and the token ID. Having a unique token ID for each image is an example of an ERC721 standard. The second is the media file like a photograph, video, audio. The identifier is uniquely assigned to the media file, the same way a social security number uniquely identifies a person. We can now define a non-fungible token as an identifier on the blockchain that uniquely identifies an object. While the object is often a digital asset in the form of a media file, the object can buy anything that is unique. For instance, NFTs can be minted to represent a painting or a home. The blockchain address that is listed as the owner of the identifier within an NFT smart contract is the owner of the digital asset that the identifier relates to. This brings us to an important insight. The NFT is the identifier and not the media file. We can use an analogy. The vehicle identification number or VIN in the United States uniquely identifies a car. The NFT is analogous to the VIN. We can now form a 3-way link. An Ethereum address is listed as the owner of an NFT. This is an externally owned account. The NFT is a smart contract address that contains the unique identifier for a digital asset. Hence, whoever holds the private key to the EOA is the owner of the NFT. We know that the NFT is recorded on the blockchain. But where is the media file stored? Next, we will answer this question. The media file, whether a picture, an audio file or a video file, may be stored on-chain or off-chain. In on-chain storage, the smart contract stores the media file within itself. In off-chain storage, the smart contract merely has the link to an external server where the media file is stored. Let us review each option next. On-chain storage can be quite expensive and hence is not commonly used by NFT issuers. High gas fees are required to deploy such smart contracts as well as to process any transactions on them. When a transaction is processed with the smart contract as the destination, the nodes in the Ethereum blockchain must execute the code within the contract address. Larger the size occupied by the contract address, greater is the computational capacity, and hence gas units, required to process the transaction. Off-chain storage is more common. The smart contract contains the link to the server where the media files are stored. There are two options commonly used. One is a cloud service provider like AWS, Azure, Google. Second is called the interplanetary file system or IPFS. The interplanetary file system or IPFS is a network of computers across the globe that lend their free hard disk capacity to store data for third parties. This is a decentralized storage system that complements the blockchain. The IPFS allows the blockchain to store only the minimum data required while transferring the heavier data elements to an infrastructure that replicates the blockchain's decentralized model. We can recap the three methods by which the media files referenced by NFTs can be stored. First, on-chain. Second, off-chain with central cloud service providers. Third, off-chain with the IPFS. The advantage of off-chain is storage costs. The advantage of on-chain as well as IPFS is decentralized storage that prevents points of failure related to a central party. For instance, if there was an outage on an AWS server where the media files were stored, they will not be accessible during the period the outage occurred. I will now go back to Etherscan and view one of the transactions that minted the ape cartoons. I click open one of these transactions and scroll down. I click on the image. I can now see that this image is stored on the IPFS. Let us do a quick recap of what we learnt so far. A non-fungible token is a crypto token that uniquely marks ownership of a digital asset. The holder of the private key of the Ethereum address that owns the non-fungible token is the owner of the digital asset. The digital asset could be a photograph, an audio file, a video file or any media file. While the NFT resides on the blockchain, the media file is usually stored off-chain, though on-chain storage examples also exist. Let us go back to the website of OpenSea. This is a marketplace where I can buy an NFT. I will pull up Bored Ape Yacht Club. I am going to pull up one of the images. As you can see here, this image can be mined for about $128,000. My Ethereum address can be the owner of this NFT if I paid this amount. If I scroll down, I can see the sale and purchase transaction history. This history resides on the blockchain. I can click on one of these links and this pulls up the transaction on Etherscan. We can see the transaction transferred the ownership of the NFT from this address to this address. The OpenSea marketplace acted as the front end that allows consumers to buy and sell easily. This brings us to the elephant in the room. Any digital asset can be easily copied and pasted. So why should anyone pay thousands of dollars for a cartoon image that can be easily copied and pasted? We will address this question next. Consider the original Mona Lisa and imitations of the Mona Lisa. The price of the original Mona Lisa is likely to be in millions of dollars. But you can buy an imitation Mona Lisa for far less. Now, imagine if Da Vinci had created Mona Lisa on a computer instead of a canvas. The distinction between the original physical Mona Lisa and an imitation one can be easily discerned by an art expert. NFT allows the same distinction to be applied within the realm of digital assets. The NFT proves that you own the original digital Mona Lisa that Da Vinci made on his computer and is currently residing at a particular address within the cloud or the IPFS. Many people think NFTs are worthless. Our intent here is not to debate that issue. Rather, we are here to learn the arguments that are offered in support of NFTs. The intrinsic value of NFTs, according to advocates, arise from two sources. First, they are collectibles that people value. A digital autograph made with an electronic stylus by a Hollywood star could be more highly valued than a mere copy-paste image of the original. Second, real-world utility can be linked to the NFT. For instance, the holder of the Ethereum address that owns the autograph NFT may be entitled to attend any premiere of the actor's movie free. So far, we have discussed two examples of ownership tokens: equity tokens and non-fungible tokens. Next, we will discuss tokens that represent ownership of a physical asset. In this illustration, we will cover an example of one type of a physical asset, namely real estate. We can distinguish between two forms of ownership of a physical asset. One is indirect via an equity ownership structure. The second is a direct ownership structure. In the indirect ownership structure, a legal entity like an LLC or a corporation owns the physical asset in the official property record like the land registry at a government office. A crypto token represents equity ownership of the legal entity. This structure is the crypto equivalent of a real estate investment trust or REITs, which some of us may be familiar with. Consider an office building. It is purchased by a company called Argus Corporation for $100 million. All rent received from the tenants of this building accrue to Argus. Argus finances the $100 million by issuing crypto tokens on the blockchain. Each of the tokens is of $1,000 value. 100,000 such tokens are issued. The initial coin offering follows the 3W process that we discussed earlier: white paper, website, and wallet address. The token holders receive pro rata share of the rent receipts. This is coded into an ERC-20 token smart contract. Each token has a $1,000 face value, and rent paid to the token holder is expressed as a percentage of the face value of the token. Each quarter rent receipts are credited to the Ethereum account owner listed on the smart contract via stablecoin. Hence, we can view the Ethereum address owner of the holder to consist of two ERC-20 smart contracts. One is the token held with the Argus property smart contract. This records the ownership stake of the investor in the property owning legal entity. The second are tokens held with the stablecoin smart contract. This records the token holder's receipt of rents. In the United States, property ownership is recorded in a land register maintained at a government office, namely the local county office. In this example that we just reviewed, the official registry records Argus Corporation as the landowner. The token holders don't have title to the property but are merely shareholders in Argus Corporation. Imagine a world where real estate property ownership is actually recorded on a blockchain by a government authority. The ownership is recorded via a non-fungible token on a smart contract. We can perceive a buy and sell of real estate as a combination of three smart contracts. There is a smart contract that records the sale of property. We will call this Ethereum address X. The second smart contract maintains the title of the property via non-fungible tokens. This is maintained by a state agency. We will call this Ethereum address Y. The third smart contract is a stablecoin smart contract. We will call this Ethereum address Z. Next, we will see how the three interface. Alice is selling her property to Bob. Alice's title to her property is currently recorded as an NFT in the government database. Alice electronically signs a natural language version of the sale purchase contract. When she does so, two transactions are triggered from her EOA. The first transaction is initiated to the sale purchase smart contract, which records that she has signed the natural language contract. The sale purchase smart contract is simply a digital representation of the natural language contract. The second transaction is initiated to the title smart contract. This transaction transfers the title from Alice to contract address X. Like Alice, Bob also signs the natural language version of the sale purchase contract. When he does so, two transactions are triggered from his EOA. The first transaction is initiated to the sale purchase smart contract, which records that he has signed the natural language contract. The second transaction is initiated to the stablecoin smart contract, which transfers cash from Bob to contract address X. At this point, the smart purchase contract X owns the title and the stablecoins. Once both Alice and Bob have done their bit, this contract automates the simultaneous delivery of title to Bob's EOA and payment of stablecoins to Alice's EOA. A challenge with ownership tokens is that in many cases is the existence of an official registry of ownership for an asset class. For instance, the ownership of land is recorded by the state. Similarly, copyright of digital media is registered with the United States Copyright Office in the U.S. While such copyright registration is not mandatory, it improves the chances of winning a copyright infringement lawsuit in the U.S. Hence, the feasibility of ownership tokens is dependent in many cases on the adoption of blockchain registries by the legally recognized record keeper or integration of official records with oracles who can reliably transmit off-chain information to the blockchain. This brings us to end of our discussion on ownership tokens. We reviewed three illustrative examples. We learned that ownership tokens can be used to record ownership of a legal entity like a business, a digital asset like a painting, and a physical asset like real estate. So far, we have covered three of the four types of crypto token categories. In the next lesson, we will review the final category of utility tokens. But before that, review the summary of this lesson. I will see you shortly.